All right, we're live. What's shaking, killers? It's what is it, July the 2nd? We got 2 days to go till America's birthday. Pretty good deal. I don't think Joey's gonna be joining us today. Should be a relatively short one. Let's see, top of the hops here. Onocoy. Okay, TG is closer. They announced the DePIN Union. They also announced the hotspotty connection. I don't know if they announced that recently or not, but those are both pretty big ones. I think DePIN Union's got 70,000 on Twitter. Hotspotty, of course, is super well known and deepened. So good to see them working through that. I'm not sure what TGE details they've released. I know it's coming. I was on a call with them this morning. They're a client of ours, so I've got a pretty good idea what's going on. But I'll just say that TGE is definitely getting closer, and it's kind of cool to see on the inside. In Anyone land, these guys did the was it Carbon browser implemented Anyone routing into mobile and desktop. So what's up, Siegfried? Siegfried, you can use anyone on Carbon, which is kind of cool. Helium, there's been a ton of news here. I think the biggest thing, or one of the big things on Twitter, was recently they'd said that 1 million Americans are using Helium. That's pretty cool. To think that a bunch of us out there are using it, whether we know it or not, on our cell phones. And then, of course, a ton of us have been using it for IoT pieces. There's a ton of discussions on how IoT is going to work in the future. Oh, it's hot where you are, huh, Siegfried? As far as POC, seat fees, data transfer only, etc. I'm still mining Helium IoT. Yep, that's I'm certainly doing the same. What's up, 619? So I think there's a bunch of discussions around there. What Nova has said, or at least Amir, the CEO of Nova, has said, is they will keep the IoT piece alive. So it's kind of a bad way to think about it, but it's a very practical way. Is that the mechanism will stay there for the IoT network to exist, but we do need to figure out an incentive piece to make sure that it not only the infrastructure exists, but it's actually useful. So yeah, pretty cool how generous of Amir. I mean, I think so. If it's even if it's a couple grand a month, that's a pretty good deal for them to say like, hey, we built this thing and we're going to keep it going. So I thought it was pretty cool, but that's just me. You guys know I'm a fan of Helium. Let's see, hit Helium Mobile, Hivemapper land. What's going on there? There's a bunch of MIPs. 619 actually did a really nice thing over in the GK Discord. He just wrote out each MIP and gave it a thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm not going to do the same thing here, but there's a MIP out, so an improvement proposal to sunset the side-facing camera. They're going to wind down AI trainer rewards. To me, that says that they feel like they've got a strong AI model and they're going to crush with it, but I could be wrong. Let's see. And then what's this Edge AI developer access fees? And then adapt rewards to customer demands. I think that adapt rewards to customer demands is kind of the first thing for any DePIN, but sometimes you just have to give insane rewards at the beginning. And yeah, and that's there. Let's see. I see a future of smart cities with Helium as the backbone. Yeah, I actually see the same thing. I'm working on a project to get a shitload more DC onto Helium. I talked a little bit about it at the last Helium call, at least the spark of the idea, and now I'm getting after it. Let's see. So that's Hivemapper. Daba, I didn't see any big news in Daba, but in DIMO, they had the huge kickback from all the subscription stuff they were doing. I think they said they're going to end free usage. What is it? August 1st, the free trial ends. There might have been some stuff in there. If you bought it 1 million years ago, you get a little bit extra time, but they're definitely moving to like, hey, you bought this thing from us. You want to keep using it. You're going to pay. So, yep. And we can come back to Helium and talk about some of this stuff, Siegfried, because I think that's an important piece, and it's certainly a thing I know the most about. Wingbits had some funny stuff. They're doing some spoof detection, talking about it on Twitter. So seeing, was it a plane jump around in Ukrainian and Russian and Finnish airspace or something like that. So just kind of cool to see that a giant network around the world can detect some of the spoofing stuff. And then I think they said they tracked the first flying taxi in Dubai, which is also kind of cool. Spexi continues to deliver just with shipping new cities. Those guys are crushing. They've also issued out a kind of a warning about used DJI drone complications. So if you're buying a DJI drone from someone else, I'm not sure, it wasn't clear to me because I just skimmed over it, if the drone was already on Spexi, if you're going to need to change it, which makes a ton of sense, or if the drone was not on Spexi, you're still going to need to do some kind of ownership change, which also makes sense to me. But just so you know, if you're considering buying a used DJI drone to fly Spexi, know that you should pay attention to their Twitter. In WeatherXM land, I think the big kind of cool thing here is that they just keep saying, like, they said what they were going to do, which was they wanted to build this DePIN, but they really wanted to help the global south, and they're going to ship stations out there. And I think they just had a piece where they shipped another station, a couple stations out to Kenya, in support of, like, hey, here's some local weather data for you. So I thought that whole thing was pretty cool. I think what they're doing is rad. In MetSci land, crushing, I will probably get a MetSci show out this week. That will just be the discussion of the sled project that I put up last week or the week before. Just walking you through what's going on. But I had one episode last week. I'll probably have one this week, and then I think we'll be back into it. I got a couple good folks coming on there. So that'll be cool. And then I'll finish up with the flywheel systems. Make sure you check them out. They're down at the bottom right of my screen. And I think they are, there's a description to them in the bottom. So if you need help with marketing stuff or with figuring out how to deploy stuff, they've got as much experience as anyone in the space. Okay. Joey's not coming today, but we can still talk a little bit about Helium. I think I'll go back here to Siegfried's piece. I think this is in reference to the idea of, making sure it's clear, like, what's going to happen with IoT. I think this is totally true, Siegfried. I mean, I have the same questions, like, hey, is it going to keep going long term? Is it going to be good? And I think the takeaway I got from Amir is that they will do kind of their part, which is to keep the infra going. And then the community has to do the other piece, which is to make sure the incentives are correctly aligned. Neil's got a hip out for seat fees for IoT. I don't like it. It may be a good kind of stopgap option. And I think that's how it's being presented. I'd rather do like a full kind of reset and figure out a good long-term option, but that's me. And I know that's also a shitload of work. And you need someone who's a pro in that to do that work. So I may put in a proposal to do that, but we'll see. Let's see. Derek, is DIMO going to start charging? Yes, they're going to start charging. Check their Twitter, check their Discord for more on that. Let's see, Paradigm Miner. I see numerous micro mobilities around me, including electric scooters, skateboards, one-wheel vehicles. Yeah, I mean, this whole thing of tracking for Helium, that's their killer app. It's not so much a smart building thing, although it could be, but it's much more powerful for tracking, because a smart building, if you're a deployer, you just put a gateway in there and you're covered. You don't need backup. You maybe put 2 gateways in there, and maybe you need, and this is something I'm figuring out how to do, is maybe you make it so you can roam onto Helium as a backup, and that's great. But for the most part, if you're deploying for a specific area, Helium is potentially not that useful. In some cases it is. Again, I'm working on some cool ideas there. But where it's killer is the tracking application. And I think that's the thing that I can totally lean into. And I mean, that is the company's business that bought out Nova's piece of it, which is Lone Star Tracking. That's what Helium's fantastic for. There's gateways all over. There's gateways in every city, or in every major city. And so if you're a smaller deployer and you want to offer a tracking piece to your clients, and you don't have the resources to put up gateways across your city or across the world, or across the nation, Helium as a roaming option is a fantastic idea. And I think that's probably where I'm going to kind of aim my efforts for the roaming piece, is saying to deployers that are small, medium size, like, hey, let me make it super easy for you to roam onto Helium. Let me show you how to do it. And let's get those DCs on there. And then you have access to the world's largest LoRaWAN. So, yep, I think Neil's saying, yeah, I've quoted over 100,000 trackers this week. That's a shitload of trackers. And that's the kind of stuff that we need. And I think that's also the clearest use case where you can say Helium is awesome. Because it is. I mean, it's such a good deal there that you get access to this global LoRaWAN. And at what, almost not whatever cost, but even at 10x DC cost, which is what MeteoScientific charges, like, that's still a great deal. If you're tracking whatever, once an hour, once every half hour, I think when I was running the numbers, it's like, God, Neil, you'll probably know this better than me. But I think even at like 10 cents a month per tracker, at 2 uplinks per hour, so every 30 minutes, you can still make money on it. So that's kind of cool. Now it's not a ton of money. And I think that's the big issue here, is that there's not enough money in it to make a bunch. So you're able to charge these super cheap fees. If you look at, I think it's Netmore pricing or Actility pricing. I put a link into the Discord chat about this where they'd publish their pricing. And if I remember right, God, I'm going to get this wrong. It was like $2.47 a year. So helium for whatever their per sensor, I think, and that was at unlimited cents. So you can beat that with helium, but even if you can beat it and keep your cost per year under $1, you're only half as expensive, which is great. I mean, you could be a lot less expensive, but at the end of the day, there's only $2.37 per sensor to make any profit on. So even if you make 100% profit, you need a shitload of sensors to run a business. And I think that's the kind of big piece there, is that it has to remain cheap enough that there's enough margin in there because the per sensor profit is so low. So let's see, Siegfried, Helium IoT may be useful if people want to set up their own gateways to run them. Yes or no? Yes. Set up the whole infrastructure yourself versus hook gateways to Helium and use infra that's already there. Yeah. There's a whole thing in LoRaWAN with HLNSs. So I think home LNSs versus SLNSs, which are server LNSs. So my general plan now is to set up MeteoScientific as a way to roam easily on Helium. And instead of setting up a chirp stack, my big picture, my big idea is to set it up so that people aren't using MetSci in this instance. So the MetSci console that exists as it is will always exist. I mean, as long as I can keep it in business. And then this other offering would be probably a different OUI and a different setup entirely. So it wouldn't be chirp stack. It would be some custom piece that just says, hey, give me your list of dev UIs and app keys, or, whatever it is. Give me the endpoint that you want me to send all this data to. I'll buy all the data from Helium and I'll just send it on to you. You can deduplicate on your side. And I'll charge you a DC multiple fee or something. So that's the kind of general idea. Let's see, Neil saying those other prices are at volume though. Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I think, what was it, Neil? It's like 50, you have to buy 50,000 sensors or 20,000 sensors, something like that. And it was $45,000. Like it was a good chunk. So for bigger businesses, they're like, yeah, whatever. But I think there's this giant realm of business that are, let's say 1 to 10 employees that are doing stuff in their city, in their state, in their region. And we've had him on the podcast. You talked to Dean Marsh, is working in the UK, or Scott. What's Scott's last name? It's escaped me for now. Where they're doing something, and it's like, for them, it seems like a no-brainer to use Helium. But the experience I think that they had was that they're like, oh, cool, I'll just jump on Helium real quick. Seems kind of cool. There's plenty of gateways, but I don't see how I'd integrate this into my LNS that I have, because there wasn't a super easy way to do it. So that's what I want to make a change on, and either write a blog post on how to do it, or I think it's much more profitable if I just do it myself and offer that as a service. So that's the possibility out there. But I'm looking at it, and I'll tell you, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but it's like, you need, I think it's like 100,000 devices, and you clear $600 a month or something. So it's like, there's not a lot of money in it, and you need a bunch of folks to come in. Now that changes if you start having bigger customers come in, and you have a lot of customers, and the whole thing works so that you never have to do customer support. Then it starts being like, okay, cool, this is more of the SaaS piece where the costs are relatively low, and even if the margin isn't super big, if you have enough of them, the thing can kind of not run itself, because no good profitable business ever runs itself. They always need some tweaking and working on, but it becomes a viable business. So something to explore and to do. And if that ends up being something that I look at and say, okay, the lift on that is too great, cool. I've got like 10 other things that I've got to do as well. So ends up being kind of a Helium focused state of the networks. If you guys have questions on anything else, you can hit me on it. But I think that's probably it. Let's see. Did I miss anything in the chat? Derek, good to see you back again. Siegfried, it's hot as fuck where you are. All right. Tobias, getting after him here. Neil is building some super cool stuff at scale. And then, yeah, I think this is a key point here, is that the volume discount applies. I mean, Helium is the price of the price. And that's the piece. When It's funny when I've been discussing this idea with ChatGPT or Grok, they're like, "Oh yeah, you can negotiate discounts of volumes." Like, no, you can't. The price is the price, and everybody can see it, and that's why it's pretty easy to be open about like, "Hey, this is what it costs, and this is what I'm going to charge," because any knucklehead with the ability to Google kind of one thing, which is what is the price of a Helium DC, can figure out all the rest of it on their own. So that's fairly interesting. Is that there's no negotiating. I think the other big signal there is that Nova decided they didn't want to do it. Maybe the business wasn't big enough for them. Maybe it was too hard for them to do. Maybe they saw that this way of doing it wasn't the best way to do it, and then that mobile seemed like a better deal. So they said, "Hey, we'll support this and let someone else like Nick or BFG Neil or whoever else is out there do something with us because it's a cool idea and we already have the infra." And for them, I'm guessing, and this is me putting words in their mouth, whatever it is to run the infra. I think someone said under 10 grand a month, 3 or 4 grand a month, something like that. I can't remember where I heard that. Maybe on a Helium call. It's like, okay, they can handle that. And to keep the world's largest LoRaWAN going, 4 grand a month on Nova's part is, it's pretty cool of them to do. And it gives us a ton of breathing room to fix the problems that certainly exist in that. But it also makes it, as those problems surface and come up for people who are not in crypto, not in Helium, not kind of true believers, it makes them say, I think as Siegfried said earlier, like, "Hey, I got to be able to trust this thing that it's going to be there." And that's a legit question. Okay. I think that's most of what we need to talk about this week. I will see you guys next week. I got so much shit to do. I'm sure you guys do as well. We'll make this a short one, and I'll be back, I think, next week with Joey, and we'll get into it deeper. Rock and roll. I'm out.